Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Great stuff. So I'll do a quick intro for my listeners and viewers on YouTube. So you're a professional footballer, businessman and investor. You spent 5 years with Wolves. And the other clubs you played for was Bristol City and Bolton, to name a few. You're currently at Bristol Rovers. And we met, I think it was about a year ago. We started following each other on Instagram, and I wanted to get you on. Obviously, it's great to get a perspective from a professional footballer, but also to find out what's happening with you and how you transitioned, because I know you do stuff in property as well, and how you've used your football career to sort of get you on the business side as well. So it'll be a nice, relaxed conversation, Mark. I know you've been on a 20-mile run. It was 20 miles, wasn't it?
Yeah, nearly that, yeah.
Oh, that's good. It's good. Well, it's better than my 7K on the bike this morning, but we all quite professional. So look, I want to talk about how are things in general, how you find the lockdown currently.
If I'm honest with you, mate, we're doing really well. We're definitely in the category of the lucky ones where we've got everything we need. Got the garden. We're close to the seafront here as well. Now we're allowed out to go have a walk around. So I can't complain with my circumstances, because I'm sure there's people out there that are suffering a bit more than us.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to go a bit more deeper into questions around that. But look, I want my listeners to understand your journey. Now, to make it a pro footballer, I'm 41 now, I ain't going to make it. And but I started off very young. I played for Derby Boys when I was younger, up until it was 15. I played a bit of semi-pro football, but I didn't quite make it, and it was tough. It's really tough to make it as a pro footballer. So I've got so much respect for any professional footballer, wherever they play. Even actually non-league is a tough gig, if that makes sense.
I agree, it's tough, yeah.
Yeah, so tell me about the journey. How did it start with you, and how did you get into football?
Well, I loved being told by my parents I loved it. I always had a football around me. And then I got to the age of, I think it was 6 or 7, and my dad just took me down to the local sports centre, I believe it was, and they had kind of like a little AstroTurf. I'm from Worcester, so that was in Worcester. That was a little AstroTurf pitch as well, and I used to kick around there, but I was quite small, and I was playing with the older boys kind of thing, and I was enjoying it that much. A couple of years of that, and then the local team, it was Worcester City, kind of made a starter boys club, so I went there and started playing for those. Played with those regularly 2 or 3 years, and then from there I got scouted for Wolves. So Wolves, well, actually before that I got scouted at many other places. So they do sort of things that are called development centres, or what do they call them now? Satellite clubs or things like that. So it will be associated with a certain club, and then you can go and train, but you're not quite at the level where you're signing a contract with them. So I was at various places, Aston Villa for a bit, Coventry for a bit, but I'd still playing for my local team at that point. And then it was Wolves that kind of said, yeah, I think you're good enough to give you sort of play for our academy. So I was 12 at that point, so under 13s I started playing. What you do is you go and train in your own kit. So I'd be training in this, and then the day that they say, oh yeah, you're good, they give you your own kit. So I was there training with all the rest of the boys, having the same kit on. So it was a nice period. Back when it was fun and games back then, I believe. It's got a bit different now.
Yeah. And at that age, I can remember, obviously it's a bit different when we had trials. We had a 3-day trial. And, I don't know if that still happens now, because when we started playing, when we were first going to, there were no academies. It's prior to the academy. So it was like schoolboys. So you'd get, so of the academies are a bit different. But I mean, when you got that shirt, how did that feel, man?
It was nice. You stuck out like a sore thumb when you'd have 20 young lads training in it was red. Wolves had a red kit with a Wolves badge on, and you were the only. First time I turned up, I was just wearing whatever, so I might have had a white t-shirt on, and then I soon clocked that, right, I might wear a red top this time. So I'd wear a red top to get as close as I could to the actual academy boys. But no, it was really, it wasn't serious back then. I knew there was an opportunity there. My mum drove me from Worcester to Wolverhampton. It was like an hour and a half every day. Not every day, sorry. I did these train with them 3 times a week, and then a game on the weekend. So she should take me up there 4 times a week, and then it was like, just do my best and see what happens. If it's enjoyable playing over here, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But the coaches pulled me to one side and said, "Now we think you're good enough to stay with us now." And then they said that was they actually gave me the red kit at that point, and I was just thinking, wow, that's amazing. And I didn't quite understand what that meant at that point, but now looking back, it was like, that's probably my first step onto my professional career, which is it was a big day.
Yeah. I take it from schoolboys to professional, because a lot of people get in schoolboys and obviously the academies, but I think not many make it through to professional. I mean, what was that process like? Because that's tough, isn't it?
That's when your resilience kicks in then, and I think that's through that period is where the coaches are looking at you as a person, not so much as a player, because there's a lot at that age. There's a lot more kids better than me, stronger than me, faster than me, all of those sort of stuff. Score more goals than me. Well, there's still those millions. You could score more goals than me. There's plenty more out there. But they see that they're kind of looking at you to see, right, is this guy going to be able to take all the stuff that's thrown at you to progress through, keep your standards, and be able to play in their first team, which you do get a lot of stuff thrown at you in the whole of your career, and that's what they look at. They even asked how tall my mum and dad work, so they can kind of work out how tall I'm going to be at the age where I'm supposed to be playing. It is well looked into, and I believe that academy coaches know what they're doing, and you might have a parent that's watching the kids that think, oh well, he's 10 times better than everyone, but they've been there with so much experience to see the lads that might have the talent at that age but not mentally quite there, that are going to stick through it to be able to deal with the rest of the stuff. And I feel that's what academies are. I genuinely believe it is. Some kids might be really good at, like, unbelievable and playing on one Saturday, and then they might not be able to sustain that the next Saturday, whereas Mr. Young Dave's lad is Young Dave's dad has watched him play and think, oh yeah, he's amazing, and he's got to play. And then next week his dad might not watch him, where the coach has seen him train all the way through and said, well, he was rubbish on Monday, he was rubbish on Tuesday, he was all right on Friday, played really well on Saturday. Well, that's not good enough for us, because he needs to do well that day, or just try hard that day, and able to get you through. And that's why I think I made my career out. It's just I turned up every day. Like there was nothing else. There wasn't anything else I'd rather be doing. There wasn't anything else that I was doing. And I gave my all every time. I remember there was a day where I woke up one morning and my mum said I wasn't well enough to go to school, but I had training later. But my dad thought I was well enough to go training, and it was like there was no debate about that. It was like, no, I've got training at 6, so I'm training at 6, and that's what it is. Shouldn't really tell you that. That's not really good for my head teachers, but that's what that's what happened.
Yeah, so, and consistently, I just interviewed Johnny Nelson, and what an amazing guy he is. And he talks about, he if his story, another podcast will be out, and we covered it. And his main thing was he didn't have all the talent, but he put in the work, the hard work, the dedication. And again, in business, when I do talks and people inspire the business I built and sold on, I wasn't any cleverer than anyone. In fact, I wasn't clever at all. I did the university, but the thing for me was consistency, showing up. But
this is what I'm finding. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm finding, mate. Where I'm now going into the business side of things. I love it as well, because you can relate to football, because the people that are getting places with their business, whatever it is, they've all got the same trait, mate. And it's hard work and dedication and resilience. It's not to do with who had all these qualifications and who has got all that talent. It's that might be short, but long term we'll see who's there at the end, and I admire that. Yeah,
100%. Listen, we talk about interviewing and podcasting and people's skills. My daughters they're 9 and 5, 9 and 6. Get told off for that. I keep forgetting. But they interviewed me with confidence. No problem whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? So if you look at skill set, it's the ones that consistently day in, day out. And that's why, you mentioned about, getting different types of people on the podcast, because I think there is a link between sport and business. In fact, Mark Cuban wrote a book, Business is Sport, because it's a resiliency. It's when you're getting kicked up, and football's a prime example. But was it, obviously it's really tough. I know how tough being a professional footballer is, even getting there. When you mention that people have the skills, what kept you resilient? For me, it was about something better than what I had growing up. But for you, what was it? What kept you going while others with so much talent fell away and you probably saw them fall away right in front of you?
I wanted to be a professional footballer, and that was what in my head I needed to be. So would missing a training session because I was, I don't know, tired or I wanted to go see my mates or anything like that, was that going to get me to be a professional footballer? It was pretty much as simple as I could make it. And the answer is no. Like, going out drinking, was that going to get me to be a footballer? It's not going to. So that's kind of what it did. And then I made my professional debut, played, got my contract and that, started my career. Then I had a bit of fun in the middle, which everyone does really, I started to drink, you know what I mean? And then sort of to sort myself out. And then now I feel I'm heading towards the end of my career. I can now kind of go back to being a rookie in the business sense of the word. So I need to now start thinking, right, is that going to help my business? Answer is yes or no. And it's really interesting how much it is. And at first it was I wanted to be a professional footballer, which I achieved. Then it was I wanted to get to this level of success, and I'm still going through that process. And then the next thing will be what I want to achieve with the business side of things, and then I'll just keep going through that until I think that's probably going to be me forever. I can't see me changing that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, well, business, you could still, even if you can't run, look at Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He's a business guy. He's
president further down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So taking it from football to business, because there's always documented how I think more previously, where a lot of people have lots of wealth in football, obviously whatever you look at, and they lose it quite quickly because people didn't teach them about business. Are you finding there's more lessons now? And there's more footballers treating things as a business rather than, like you said, just spending it. What are you finding in the football transition to business world?
Well, I've been just a bit more switched onto it. So, like the laws of attraction, now I think about it more. My eyes are more focused on it. But when I was younger and I wasn't so into it myself, it was kind of, I wouldn't have noticed. So I would have said back 10 years ago, there would have been none of it. It would have just been, right, football lads get paid and then they spend it. It's as simple as that. But now I'm kind of clocking, seeing what's going on. It is there. There are lads doing, looking after themselves for the future, but not enough in my opinion. There's not enough at all. When I got interviewed on another podcast, I got asked that question, and it was out of a squad of 20 lads, you wouldn't be able to fill one hand with the ones that have kind of got the future sorted, and that upsets me a little bit, because these are my teammates, my close mates I see every day, and I want everyone to be successful as they can and financially stable as they can, whereas I'm not sure if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, it's interesting because I run a management agency for some top influencers who've got millions of followers. And the key lesson I teach them first is treat it like a business. Because a lot of the people who I have conversations, mentoring calls with them is because they've overspent the money, simple things like money's come in, they didn't know it had to be taxed, little things that people don't teach you. And these companies are chucking big money at brands. So, what changed your mind then? You mentioned law of attraction. What switched you? Was it a conversation? Was it a mentor? Was it something you heard? What was it? What was it?
It was just a wake up call, really. I was at Wolves, and I was playing for Wolves in the first team, and we were challenging to get promoted into the Premiership. So I was on a really good contract, especially at my age, where I had a mortgage payment and a phone bill to pay, and that was it. And then I was on a really good contract. Then I went to Peterborough. My wage dropped slightly, but they dropped quite a bit, but it was still a very comfortable wage. And that was kind of it was a 3-year contract, and it was a tiered contract. So I started on that, and then next year I went up there, and then the next year I went up there. So within my 3rd year, I was kind of still on a very, very good contract. I didn't have my best of my years of that last year, as I think we might have got relegated with Peterborough, just got relegated, and I was injured for quite a bit of the season. And then Peterborough just said, we're not going to be offering you another contract, which is like, oh right, okay, well I haven't got a job now, but I'm actually jobless. I've got no income coming in. I've still got the same bills going out. I was older than the first time, so I've got mortgages to pay, bills to pay, like normal living things, which I didn't have when I was 17. And where's this money going to come from? And where's my job going to come from at first? So I went. There was a lot of clubs offering me deals or offering me an interview kind of thing to see if I wanted to play for them, which were in lower leagues than what I wanted to play in, or somewhere in Scotland. I didn't particularly want to go up to Scotland. No disrespect, Scotland. I just didn't want to go up there. Which I didn't feel was the best career move for myself. So my decision was to stay at Peterborough, but my agent negotiated with them and said, look, Mark wants to play at this level. So we've been relegated and we want to go straight back up to the Championship. So I wanted to stay at that level, but they gave me next to nothing wages. So I was then earning a very low wage. Peterborough weren't high payers anyway. So I was at the lowest paid club in League One on the lowest wage in league. If you can imagine, it was close on non-league wages. So, and I still had all my bills, and I still, I had the same friends. I had the same lifestyle, exactly the same as if I was playing in the Championship on a Championship wage. So that was like, wow. And it was like, I don't even think I told my parents, my family. They knew I took a pay cut, but not to the extent. So my friend, it's weird in football because I played with Premiership lads, a lot of Championship lads, and a lot of League One lads, and I'm friends with all of them. There's a wide spectrum of lads. So when I've got my Premiership lads saying, "Oh, do you want to pop on holiday?" That's a bit different to when my non-league lads or my lads from home say, "Oh, do you want to pop on holiday?" It's a bit different. So I'm going to be spending completely different amounts of money, but I was still keeping up appearances, and I was still spending time with the Premiership lads, and they don't know how much I'm getting paid, and vice versa. And it's kind of, I was like, I can't sustain this. This is absolutely this is ridiculous. I was in a bad way, but I played. At that point was when I then clicked, and what am I going to do, either to supplement my wage, what I'm on now, or what am I going to do other than football? So just literally like a switch like that, it would have happened overnight. Right, what am I doing? And then I went into some network marketing things. Always had my own property because it was it made a lot of sense to me. It's quite simple. I had a small portfolio at that point because when I bought a house in Wolves, then I moved to Peterborough. So then I kept the previous house, rented it out. Same in Peterborough. So it was kind of right. Here's houses now that are giving me renting. So I was thinking, oh, well, actually this works, but I better go and get some sort of training because, well, I didn't at first. I thought, oh, I'll do this myself. But then you also learned, oh, hold on a minute, that's not working. What's going on here? So I went and got some various training as to how to do it properly and professionally. And that's where, and it really switches your mind from taking myself out of the football world where I only speak to football people who speak football language, which, to be quite honest, it's like, right, well, when this signing on free comes up, let's go and blow it in Vegas. And that's the extent of the kind of conversations you have. Whereas when you go and speak to people like yourself or people that I meet on the courses and things like that, they have a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
And it really opens my mind. And I genuinely love that, where I can see it from a different perspective. And that's where I was like, no, I can go and be the best footballer I can be without a shadow of a doubt. Everything focused 100% on football. But then on the other side is when that money gets put into my bank, I'm not going to be spending it like I previously did, or 90% of other footballers do. It's going to be over here. And then this is my new, where like I said, I'll be the new rookie where I'm learning. So yeah, I am going to make a few mistakes on the way, but I'm hopefully by the time I retire, I've had the silly mistakes out of the way, and I can kind of build from there. So yeah, I believe it was kind of just a rude awakening and a bit of a shock to the system that kind of gave me a kick up the bum. And hopefully I've had some other kicks up the bum along the line as well, where Bolton all of a sudden stopped. I was playing for Bolton for 2 years, and they all of a sudden just stopped paying me. So that was very similar scenario to where I was in Peterborough. And now everyone's experiencing what's going on now in the COVID situation, where like people are not allowed to work. So I feel a bit now where I'm looking around at people and I say, yeah, see, that's just where you're not allowed to earn any money. This is how I felt. This is how I felt when Peterborough dropped my wage, and this is how I felt when Bolton stopped paying me. Like you need things in place to protect you from these things, for things that you will never see coming at all, from so far left field. No one would have ever predicted this, but the top boys, the big boys, are protected from this. The people that are not switched on, and the people that are kind of sleeping and just going next day to the next, haven't seen this, and then it's, oh, can someone bail me out? Can we get this grant? Can we get this loan? But it's, I know I don't want to disrespect other people, so I know there's people that are in a bad way, but I'm glad that I've kind of had this process before, because I know going forward, I've had 3 major things now, so I know there's going to, and I'm only 31, so I know, just simple maths, I'm going to see 3, 4, 5 more of these COVID situations, which I need to be protected for.
I mean, you must have a tough mindset, because I tell you why. I know it's tough, because when you get released at schoolboy level, I mean, when you don't get picked for a team, it hurts as a footballer. But to then, obviously get released from a contract and then telling a club that you can't do it, I bet many footballers just don't recover from that, because you need a tough mindset, don't you? Yeah,
well, it was very tough. I remember the day where I walked back in, because I'd left. I'd kind of been told that I was leaving. So at the end of the season, there's like a retain list, and I wasn't on it. So the club would say, right, we're keeping these players, these lads are leaving. So there'd be probably 5 or 6 lads that were leaving. And I kind of said bye to the lads, like arrogantly, like, yeah, I'm off, lads. I'll just get another club and I'll probably go to the championship above. See you later. And then the day of pre-season started again, I had to walk back into that dressing room, like with the tail between my legs, saying, hi lads, I'm back. The lads were fine. We had a laugh about it for the first couple of days, and then we were back to work then. And we had Peterborough had a really good season that year. I personally had a really good season. And then that happened to get my move from Peterborough to Bristol City, which was probably financially the best move. Well, financially and career-wise, probably the best move that I've had so far. So it was kind of head down, do the work, no distractions. You get the best out of what it was, and I learned that, and that's how you get a strong mentality. You don't get a strong mentality from not going through these things. You have to go through these tough times to grow from them. And I have had tough times. I have, for me personally, and that's tough for me. But you'll have tough times, and your tough times might be 10 times worse than mine. But to me, my tough times were there. I see a lot of, when I discuss with people who are going through tough times, it's kind of point scoring, like, oh, well, okay, you've only had this, but I've had this. But it's not about that. It is personal to you. And that was a period, that year was I'm sure there's football fans out there saying, oh, poor you, Mr. Little, on a footballer wage. Well, that was really tough for me, because from the age of everyone sort of starts getting a job at 16, say 16, 17. From there, I've been on a lot of money. So that's what I was used to. And then all of a sudden it wasn't there. So that was a tough time for me. And it's kind of like, in the public eye, I'm not allowed to complain about that, because you get criticised. But that's genuinely how it was. It was tough for me, and that's how I've grown from it and kind of learned a little bit. And everyone's still learning as well. I look at it now. I've done I've probably got another 5 to 10 years left at football. About 10 years if I'm very lucky left at football, and then I've got the whole rest of my life to then start again with the business stuff and make my mistakes there, and there'll be things through business that I haven't come across yet. Will be an extremely tough time, and have to deal with that. I'm sure you could tell me many things that I'm going to go through from now till the end of my business career. So I'm quite excited about it, but no, it's coming. It's not naive, like, oh, it's all going to be rosy, because it's not.
It's interesting because in business every day is a different challenge. And if I look back my 20-year career, as a business person, I've had some ups and downs and highs and lows. It's just part of life, and you will go through that. The best way is just to learn from people and you need to make your own mistakes, but make calculated mistakes. And obviously having mentors really helped me because they kind
Massive.
I'll be totally honest with you. I interviewed my first mentor in my office, and we're going to make that live. So it's an amazing interview because he met me when I was going through rock bottom. But the key thing is they just give you the belief. By the way, you've got to put the work in. I mean, a lot of people go to mentors or these courses or whatever they do, expecting a miracle. And I try and paint the reality. It's like going to training pre-season, right? You're gonna have to put the effort in, and you're gonna have to feel sick, and to get the rewards of the full season. Pre-season's a game, right?
100%. Sorry to interrupt you there, but just from how I would look at that is everyone knows, to be looking at it from a footballer's point of view, everyone knows you have to be fit to be a footballer. So if I'm on my own, I can go run on a track and I can work as hard as I possibly could, know it, and I could go home and be like, oh, I've worked hard now I'm fit. But if I had a mentor next to me or a fitness coach next to me and said, right, Mark, instead of doing this, I need you to do that. So instead of running around the track 10 times, what I want you to do is break that up and sprint 1 and then sprint 2 and then sprint 2. That will get a better outcome for you from someone who's got more experience than you, been through it before probably, and has more knowledge. I'm going to get 10 million times further and quicker from listening to someone who knows more than me than me trying to do it myself. I've been to the track today. I've been on my own today, and I've ran as hard as I could today. But I know if I had my fitness coach or my business mentor, not my business mentor on the track, but my fitness coach next to me, or my fitness mentor, I know I'll be doing better. That's how I look at mentors, and I think they're so important. So important.
Yeah, definitely, and getting the right mentor, because if you get the wrong fitness coach, they send you the wrong grade. Do you know what I mean? So to do your due diligence, to make sure you do that, and it's great that you've now put that progression. You're looking at things as a business. That's why I want to get you on, because I knew straight away when I met you. I connected with you straight away, and we follow each other on Instagram. And it's really important to have that mindset of making sure that all the hard work and dedication you put in your business or your football career is then put into good use, because you can have the watches, you can have the cars. I mean, I've interviewed some really amazing people recently, and listen, materialistic things goes out the window because it's the mindset and
my love for them doesn't go. This is another thing my love for them, that I still love cars. I still love an Aston Martin, and I could go and get one tomorrow, but that's probably the worst business decision I would have ever made. Do you know what I mean? That's why it's, the temptations out there, the materialistic temptation things out there. But the hard work, you'd be wasting all your hard work.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is this. Some wise guy told me once. He goes, what happens is people who have these sports cars often do it to show people they're rich, and the rich, when they can afford it. I still like my cars, I'll still buy a nice car. But what they do is they'll buy it and they can afford it, but they buy it for a different purpose. If you're trying to fake it till you make it, then like you said, what the prime example, I want to go back to the example you mentioned about when you were going out your Premiership footballers, right? That was great. And for the moment, it feels good, right? But when you sit back and you think about what am I doing, it hurts you that much more, doesn't it? Because you think, this isn't the right thing to do.
Definitely,
But at the moment, you're loving it, but and that's the mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's not. Again, I would love to. I went on I won't say who, but I went on a professional Premiership players stag do in Vegas, and it was probably the best time I've ever. Things that I wouldn't even dream of seeing. It was unbelievable. So that's not I'm not taking that away, saying that that's not fun and that's not the best thing in the world to be doing or the best holiday that I've been on. It is, but I can't. By doing that again, it would be a complete. I would regret doing it if I did it again. I've done it once. If I go and do it again, I'll look back and think, oh, why have I done that? Look at my balance sheet and be like, why have I done that? And it's it does. It hurts you more when you actually think about it. And I just, since that turning point when at my third year at Peterborough, it was that's my mindset. That's where it changed. Previous to that being a brilliant idea. After that, it wasn't the greatest idea. So I'm trying to stick to it.
Yeah, and by the way, what you're saying, it's evergreen. It's in business as well. I work with many businesses, and when I sit with them and they're having a tough time, if I break it down, what they've done is they've overspent on the years they've done really well. They've gone out and bought. They've not recruited right.
Yeah.
And same thing. So when people look at footballers, I always look at footballers as obviously the normal people, you know what I mean? But they run a business like everybody else. Every single person is a business, right? You've got your overheads, you've got your expenses, and how you treat them, what you do with them. You know, I can remember the first thing, you know, when I used to recruit staff in my sales team, they did really well. The first thing they'll do is, right, you know, they get a high increase, they're going to get a car, right? So they're going to get a car straight away on finance, right? They've only been in the company 3 months, doing really well. So I'd sit down with them and try and advise them, look, is this the best decision? Yeah, but we're doing really well. And I would say, why don't you sustain it for a whole year? Why don't you sustain it for a whole year and don't buy it and take away that early gratification? And the ones that stood, listened to my advice and drove the bangers to work, they were the ones that after you're thinking, Jay, actually, I don't really need that car. I want to invest in property. You know, what do you think? And I said, well, that's the best move you'll ever do. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a gratification.
What do you think that is that takes that? Because that is what you've just mentioned there is massive early gratification. I had my big wake up call, but if certain players don't have that wake up call, if I'm having a really really deep conversation with some of my football friends, I find it difficult to say, because some lads go through their career and it just goes up and they just get paid loads and they don't have they don't get the wake up call, and it's hard for me to explain to those lads, like, what does it take to be like, look, you don't need that. Don't worry about that. Just stay with that.
Great question. I think the key thing is two things that I find, right? A couple of things that bring perspective. One, obviously, is when you have a child. And obviously that automatically, the switch just flicks because you're thinking of their future. But a lot of footballers are quite young. And the problem is when you're young, and I've been there, we've all been there. You know, the first thing is when you do well, you want to, rather than letting your success speak, you want to show people success. You want to say, I've got this car. It's all a kind of thing of you know, you want to justify buying that by saying, look, everyone's going to know I'm doing really well. I think for me is really what you've got to do. And for me, the same thing is you've got to fast forward 20, 30 years. And you've got to read.
What's it looking like in 20 years?
What does it look like?
What's it looking like at the end of your career? Yeah.
100%. And for me, it was reading books. I would read books. Obviously, for my parents, we didn't come from much anyway. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, when they came from India with nothing and we lived in really small houses, I didn't want that to happen to my children. So my why was already there. But I appreciate a lot of people like my daughters now, they won't have the same thing because they're living in a luxury compared to what we lived in. So the way I would say is you've got to fast forward, you've got to read these people that have been there in your shoes, you've got to study the greats. Kobe Bryant, man, what a great mentor, hero of mine. And if you study his story, you know, he's such a humble guy, and obviously he passed away, and rest in peace. Such a great guy. But what I'm trying to say is the only way they'll wake up to this is by trying to fast forward, you know? You had your wake up call, but unfortunately, there's a lot of footballers and a lot of people, and let me give you an example. So the way the markets are going now and the industry going now, there's people who have been on corporate jobs, 80, 90 grand, COVID's come now, they're going to be made redundant, right? And they're probably not saved enough. So they're having the wake up call so late in the day that it's going to take the mindset.
That's scary as well. I had my wake up call when I was living on my own in Peterborough, 23 maybe, 22, 23.
Yeah.
If I had that wake up call now with the little one and my bills to pay, and do you know what I mean? It was that would have been a lot harder than it was a 23-year-old single lad. So, as you just mentioned there, the corporate 90 granders that are now being made redundant for the first time, I imagine, like that must be very, very, very tough. Very tough.
And the bills are the same, like you said.
Yeah,
bills,
they don't change.
Exactly. And the thing is this: we've got a habit of wanting more and more, right? So the problem you get is when you buy a house. So this is not investment. You buy a house, you buy a 2-bed house. Listen, that's sufficient for a long time, right? Until you scale up, whatever, right? The next thing is, we've got to pay a rise, 3-bed. Let's go to 4. Let's get a 6-bed. In fact, let's get a massive bed. We'll put it on Instagram. Everyone's loving it. But what they don't realize, the rates are going to go up soon, and then the income stops. Listen, I would be petrified to buy such a big house with a big liability, knowing that my only income is from my job. Because
number one, yeah, from your number one asset, yeah.
exactly. I'm in recruitment anyway, and if you look at the recruitment, if you look at the contracts deep into contract, you're probably 3 months away from getting made redundant, right? Because that's in the contract. Or actually, they could release you from lack of work. So it's not as tight as you think it is. So that made me paranoid. Obviously, with yourself, you got the wake up call. So if anyone listening to this now, and you've been fortunate enough to obviously still have a position in your job, you need to be thinking about this. If this isn't a wake-up call, then really, it's going to be difficult. Because one mentor told me very early on, I mean, my life's been full of mentors, but I can remember he said to me, he goes, Jay, it's so much easier to make money and sell and do well when the going's the economy's good, right? Because
which was 3 months ago now. It was absolutely flying, brilliant, easy.
Well, property. Obviously, I've just done a deal just now, a cheeky little deal. But there's still deals happening. But what I'm saying is, when the economy is good, I did a talk. I'm going to release this talk. I did it to one of the property and business events. I don't do many talks, but I recorded this one, and I can remember saying, when the economy is good, everybody is flying. Yeah, every property. You're seeing all these property deals happening. Everyone's buying property, blow market. Everyone's an investor.
Yeah,
I can remember. I can remember 2009, and I got in the market just after that. So just after the crash, I was quite fortunate. But I can remember someone telling me, when someone in the pub is talking about buying property, you don't want to buy property, and that was happening. And we've not really felt it yet. We're going to feel it soon. I
think we're on a pause at the minute, and then we'll start seeing the rest of it.
Listen, we had a great session. I want to have some fun with this as well. So, tell me the best ground you've played on.
Ground.
Yeah.
Wembley is obviously the best stadium and ground I've ever played on, which was unbelievable. I'm lucky enough to do it twice now, which was brilliant. But I was a Man United fan when I was younger, and I played at Old Trafford in a playoff final against that. It was pretty special for me personally. So I'd say those two were the top couple for me.
Yeah. Not Derby, yeah? Not Derby. You played at
Derby.
I
was going to mention Derby. I always seem to have a good game at Pride Park. My first time I played there was a Youth Cup semi-final. So I played the Youth Cup a year above me, so under 18. So I was 16, nearly 17 maybe. And we had a semi-final there, and Derby boys should have battered us. We ended up winning. One of my old friends scored a hell of a lob from absolutely outrageous lob, and that'll stick with me. So, but ever since then, since I played back there and played Derby, 9 times out of 10 I lose at Derby. It's just a place I go. But I personally seem to have a good game there, so I always enjoy going back there.
Yeah. So I didn't get the chance. We used to play at the old baseball ground. So I'm telling my age now. And then pitch and I played at St James's Park. So I mean, nowadays the pitches are amazing. But yeah, 2 great stadiums, Old Trafford and Wembley. So what's the best player that you've played? I'd say with and against. Let's have 2 of those.
Okay. I got asked this question a lot. So it's very tough to do. So I'll answer it two parts. Who I've played with and I think who's had the most football talent and capable of doing special things would probably be Lee Tomlin. I think he's a maverick. He's a very, very special player. But then that's probably not the exciting answer that everyone wants to hear, Lee Tomlin. Yeah. But I used to room with Adam Lallana when I played in England youth with Adam Lallana, and he's off now tearing up the Premier League. So he'd probably be the one that I'd say.
Brilliant.
That would probably be the sexy answer that people ask. Yeah, probably Adam Lallana.
We'll have to Google the first one. I'm only joking. But what's the best player you played against? Because obviously you're fullback, you must play against some great wingers.
Yeah. There's a few wingers that have given me a complete lesson again, but you'd have to Google them as well. Oxlade-Chamberlain was one that gave me. I gave a couple of penalties away from him. I've kicked him over twice in the box, so I didn't learn from a mistake the first time. Theo Walcott again when we was going through our youth days. I played against him many times. We used to play Southampton quite a lot. I'm sure there's others. played Derby. Last time I played Derby, Ashley Cole played left back. Obviously, he was one of my heroes when I was growing up. So playing against him was like mind blowing. That was probably the most. Steven Gerrard would have been one. I played with him against him in a reserve game. But yeah, the list goes on. There's a lot of good players in this league. A lot of good players in this country.
Yeah, the last question, I think you probably answered it, was, what's a team you'd like to play for? And you kind of mentioned Man United. Is that the team which you would have liked to play up?
That would be, Man United would be the dream. I live in Swansea now, so if I can get a game for Swansea, that would be lovely.
Yeah, I'll make a few phone calls for you. I'll just get
do that for me, please. Yeah.
Ollie, he's sorted. Ollie, yeah, let's get him on. Sign him up. But that'd be good. Listen, it's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I knew I would. You're a great guy. You're a great character. When I first met you,
man, I appreciate it. Yeah,
it's been good. So we'll leave this thing. So it's about mentors, a business mentor podcast. We talked about mentors. Is there any particular mentor that you've worked with in football or even in business that you'd like to give a shout out to, or is this?
I'd say a mentor. My agent at the moment, Chris Evans, is he's well known in the football world, but as a football fan, you might not have come across him. But he was my academy director he was in charge of the academy when I signed, at the age of 12 or whatever. He might have been the one that said he's got something.
Yeah.
So then I left Wolves, and he's kept in touch with me, had given me advice, things like that. He went on he's been assistant manager. He was assistant manager at Derby for a bit, assistant manager at Sheffield Wednesday. But then once he finished that, he's now starting his agency out now. So he's a football agent now. So he looks after my football side of things. But all through, he would never be called a mentor, but he's been the person that I pick the phone up and say this, that, and the other too. That's from the footballing world, yeah. Yeah,
and it's interesting because mentors. I got the name mentor because people used to say, "Jay, you're a mentor. You help us out." I'd always overdeliver my advice, and it's interesting because I never came up with a mentor title, and that's probably where you mentoring is something which I'm sure one day you'll give back, and it just rolls off your tongue because it's something experienced. But listen, Mark, thank you for that. Thank you for your time. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you're keeping focused in this tough time. And I'm sure we'll have a follow-up interview and we'll look back at this and say, you know what, Jay, that was an awesome session, man. What we talked about there, some people have taken action and we'll get messages. And that's what it's all about, helping other people, inspiring. Good stuff.
Appreciate that. See you later.
So thank you for watching that video. If you want to see other videos and great guests, make sure you subscribe and like the video. So you can now head over to my website where you can see a bit of my story of building and scaling my businesses, and also all the free resources and tools which you can help you on your journey in your brand and your business. You can also subscribe on the podcast, so you can check on iTunes, Spotify, and other locations where you can find the podcast. And I look forward to catching you very soon. Thank you.